So remember that segment in the last video where I made those classes for fill loops? Yeah, I deleted those. Thinking about how the loops work for all the shapes I have planned, I wanted to make a simpler loop that can accommodate all the variations of the loops I need. So I set out to make a better system. Again. But before I did, I went and tested the implementation with a Python script. I find that a simply written scripting language helps me get ideas down and test them before implementing them. Plus, it's a lot easier to run a Python script than it is to make it in Java, compile it, copy it over to my test server, and then test it in Minecraft. So, how is this method different from my last one, you may ask? Well, firstly, everything is based within the shape class rather than having its own set of classes. Secondly, it uses arrays that you define the axes in and increments the last value of that array. It keeps on doing that until it reaches the final point. It's kind of hard to explain, but doing this instead of 3 fixed nested loops, I am able to set as many or as few axes as I wish. For example, I am able to do X, Y, and Z, or just X and Z using the same method. If you're really interested in how it works, the code will be up on my GitHub repository. The link will be in the description. Anyway, after testing it multiple times in my Python script, I was certain it would work flawlessly. But yeah, I don't even know what happened. I tried placing and breaking, but both turned out the same. It was weird. This didn't happen in Python. After debugging for a while, I discovered that the way I was incrementing the next value in the array was backwards. It just happened to work fine with the range of test values I had in my Python script perfectly. So I reversed them, and all was well again. I then implemented it for the sphere shape and neatened up the code a bit, removing duplicate lines and generally making it easier to implement future shapes. I basically just created a data class to store the information for the loop and the position variables, making it easier to add to other implemented shapes. Next up, I wanted to make the commands easier to write. Minecraft has a cool tab complete feature for commands, and you nearly need to write nothing once it's implemented. So I did that, incorrectly spelling construct with a CT instead of a KT in the if statement. That alone took several minutes of debugging progress too. Once I was sure everything was working the way it was from last episode, I moved on to adding a new shape, a hollow cuboid. It didn't take long to write, it's just basically a cuboid with extra steps. All it needs to do is check if one of the place positions is along one of the edges and it's good to go. However, since I want shapes to get more complex, I wanted to add a way to customize them. For example, I wanted to add an option to the hollow cuboid to only generate the borders, or the outline, but I didn't want to make an entirely new shape to do it. So I started implementing a parameter class. I needed to set it up in such a way that you could only enter certain values for certain things. For example, I don't want people entering a number for a parameter that needs a true or false value. Once I was happy with what I had, I replaced the option for place in air with my new parameter option. And of course, I made a hidden parameter to set whether the block should be placed in air or not. I then implemented the border mode to the hollow cuboid and gave it a test. It took me a while to actually make this work correctly, but once it was done, it was beautiful. I can now make cool looking things like this. Now that I had easy to implement parameters, I could easily add an extra option to the sphere shape to make it hollow. It was as simple as checking in a value range rather than a set distance to make it hollow. And once it was done, I gave it a test and look at that. Works first try. It's always a great feeling when something just works.
Compared to the hours I spent trying to get this stuff working earlier in this episode.
Well, anyway, that's it for this episode. The code for this project is available on my GitHub page, linked in the description. There is also a pre-release build available there for download if you want to try this plugin out for yourself. Just take care, it can crash a server if used incorrectly, and has no real permissions set up, so don't use it on a public server. Next up, I'll be adding some more complex shapes I've been hinting at. So if you want to see those, please subscribe to my channel to be notified when they're uploaded. Also, be sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it. And finally, thanks for watching.